Okay. So recording is starting, so I'll tell you a little bit what to expect, okay? You're going to be fine. How many of you guys took comps and passed the comps, by the way? If I pass out of Valium, you won't do well. I mean, not comps, the praxis. Let me see, let me count. Okay, because I need praxis scores, and so that means when you get your computer score, you must send it to me. I have to keep a record of those scores. I have to report them. So let me start by saying, okay, congratulations to everybody who passed the praxis. So Sharon, that's one. Melissa, Lindsay, let me see, Ashley, Sophia, Elizabeth Grover, this one, that's 6. Chelsea, that's 7. Brittany, 8. Amber, 9. Praxis, Melissa, did you take praxis? Okay. 10, Kelly. Okay. 10, Kelly. So right now, let me count again. Kelly, Melissa. Melissa, did you take comps? I don't know. Oh, wait. Ooh, you guys keep adding on. So, yes, okay, I'm writing this down because I don't have not one score for anybody, but I must have your score. Okay? All right. So, yeah, how about raising your hands and then I can count? Thank you. Oh, my God, that is so much. Wow. So right now that's 10. And I know that Jill passed because I had lunch with her and she told me that. And so Jillian passed. I didn't have lunch with her. And Nicole Compton passed. So that right now, your class has right now what, 100% pass rate? Okay, so don't worry about comps. If you have a copy of the scores, bring them. All right, I know you're chicken, but and Rainy too, so that's what, 14? Way to go, everybody is right, Denise. So if you guys pass comps, you're going to do a great job. I am so proud of you. Okay, so woo, it's almost over, and it's going to be all right. So let's look at what's going to happen with comprehensive exams. Okay, yeah, but when you get the scores, just send me the computer copy of your scores, okay? All right, so I know you filled out the request to take comprehensive exams because I've looked at those. If you have not paid, I know that some of you are bringing payment with you or something. You need to bring a receipt showing that you have paid. If you have not sent it to your graduate advisor, you can pay for your comprehensive exams and give the receipt or send the receipt to Dr. Gibson. I will be here tomorrow, not tomorrow, Saturday, proctoring comprehensive exams. Dr. Gibson will be here for your celebration. So we will need you, if you hadn't done what you're supposed to do, make sure you do it. Okay, so the format, for those of you who've taken the praxis, the format is similar to the praxis. You will have 120 questions across the big 9 areas, and then you're going to have 2 case studies. You're going to have 1 child case study and 1 adult case study. Again, the case studies are going to be selected from across the big 9 areas. Okay, so they're randomly selected, so everything is going to be done in computer format. So let's look at the content areas. You guys have been studying, so you'll have some questions in the basic human communication content. Some of the questions will be about phonological disorders, language disorders, speech disorders, and speech disorders will be articulation, fluency, and stuttering. Neurogenic disorders, motor speech disorders, aphasia, TBI, so forth and so on. Swallowing will be in there as well. Audiology and hearing, the clinical management, professional issues, and research, psychometrics and research. So those are the areas, if you took the praxis, that the comps is centered around as well. Your exam time limit. For the multiple choice, you're going to take that first, and you'll take that in the morning. Now, you guys are coming about, you need to be here really by 8:30, I would say. Comprehensive exams will begin at 9, and you will have 3 hours to take your comprehensive exams, the multiple choice examination. Now, you don't have to take 3 hours. It won't take you 3 hours, but those exams will be from 9 until 12, okay? And if you finish early, not a problem, but we will not start the case studies until everybody comes back. You can go to lunch, or I believe Dr. Matlock is doing something with you. I'm not sure what she's doing, something that has to do with your class. Okay, I don't know if she's doing it during the break or right after class or what. But you have 180 minutes to answer 120 multiple choice questions. And the questions are going to be presented in computer format in eLearn, so you will be in a computer room. You can go back and change your answers if you want to, so it won't be like when we have assessments online and we limit your ability to go back. Like you can see an answer, you answer a question and then you can't go back. This is different. You will be able to go back and change answers. So this is the objective part. It is multiple choice. Now, you will get a total score of 50 on the multiple choice examination. And then you'll get a total score of 50 on the case studies for a complete score of 100 points. You must make an overall 80 in order to pass the comprehensive exams across the two. Okay, so your case studies, randomly assigned. You will have 180 minutes to complete 2 case studies, and you will be writing in those case studies. It is not multiple choice. You must answer specific questions about the case studies regarding diagnosis, assessment, treatment, and counseling. And you must write your answers to your case questions electronically in eLearn. So, in other words, I can give you paper so that you can kind of do an outline if you want to, and then you can go back and write your answers. We are going to go over what we're looking for in the case studies tonight so that you will have some idea, okay? So, but first, let's look at the scoring. Your multiple choice is going to be scored electronically because it's in eLearn, and you know that the assessment then can be scored. We will recheck answers if necessary. If for some reason the answer that we say is correct was not the correct answer because we made a mistake, of course we'll go back and change it. You will receive a total of 50 points on the multiple choice section. Each question is worth roughly 0.42 points. 120 questions times 0.42 is 50.2 points. Now remember, you have to get an overall 80%, okay? And so that's important for you to know. So let me look at this right quick. Okay. So, let's say you at least have to get, I think, 96 correct to get an 80% just on this section. So let's see, I think that's it. Yeah, you have to get 96 of the 120 questions correct to get an 80%. So if you got 96 correct, that's times 0.42. That means that you would make a score of 40.32 on this part, okay? But you just made an 80% on that part, but you don't have to make an 80% on this. You got to make an overall 80. So, but I'm just telling you, shoot to get no more wrong than try not to miss any more than 20 or 24. Try not to miss that many at all, but I'm just saying 80% on this means that you at least answered 96 questions correctly, okay? All right, so that gives you something to aspire to do, and you can do it. You can do it. It's content-based. Okay. Now, your case studies, they will be completed electronically, but they will be read by professors in major areas for the cases presented. Okay, so what we do is based on the case, it's always the first reader in that area who reads. So, for example, I usually read Dr. Gibson and I read in the adult language cases because I teach aphasia, you know, and we talk about dementia, TBI, and right hemisphere in the course I teach, and then she teaches motor speech disorders. So in motor speech disorders, you talk about apraxia, you talk about dysarthria, blah, 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 degenerative diseases, so forth and so on. Okay, Irwin teaches you dysphagia or whatever, so, or either somebody taught that, but the point is that depending on the types of cases that you get, the person who actually teaches in those areas are the people who are going to read. Like, for example, Iris Johnson Arnold may read in the language disordered area. Fitzgerald may read in the language development area, or whatever. She might read in oral rehab, or Danielle may read in the language development area. Okay, so that being said, if the first reader fails the student, the second reader will rescore the case study because we have 3 readers per area. If the second reader passes the student, a third reader will rescore the cases. Then, if 2 of the 3 readers pass a student on a case, the student will receive a passing score. So this is our checks and balances. The case studies are worth a total of 50 points, and we have a scoring rubric that we use to score the case studies, so I want to go over the scoring rubric with you as well. Okay? Now, that means you've got one child case that you're going to be writing on, and then you've got one adult case that you're going to be writing on. Okay? So that means if the total number of points you can get on the case studies equals to 50, then each case equals 25 points apiece. Okay. Can the comprehensive exam be retaken? Hold on, guys. Hold on. This is an emergency. Okay. All right. So, can you retake the comprehensive exam? Yes, if you fail. Now, you got to make an overall 80. If you fail, you can retake the comprehensive exam, but not in the same semester. So this means that you will not graduate. What this means is that you will be we have to remediate you, and that means that you will have to retake the comprehensive examination in December, or in not December, but in November, when if there's anybody that's graduating in the fall, when they will take their comprehensive exam. And only those persons who are graduating in August are allowed to take comprehensive exams this summer, okay? Students must make a total score of 80 on the overall comprehensive examination. If you make less than an 80, you must retake the entire exam. That means both the multiple choice and the case study sections when it's offered the next semester, okay? So, failing the comps meanings, like let's say you didn't do well on the multiple choice, but you did really excellent on the case studies. Thank you so much. Yes, thank you. You did really well on the case studies. Well, it doesn't matter. You have to retake the case studies and the multiple choice section. Does anybody have any questions? Any questions? Okay, because it's a university policy, so you will not be allowed to graduate if you do not pass the comprehensive exams. The university requires, the graduate schools require that we remediate. Yeah, remediation. Yeah, what are the answers? That is so funny. Our hearts are in our throats. No one can speak right now. Okay, listen, people, you will do fine. What I have done in the past is to remediate by doing a independent study. And then depending on the areas where you have problems, we'll have faculty to come in and we'll look at those areas and we will go through content in those areas. And then we'll allow, and then you can go back and retake, you know, you can study again on your own and then you can retake your exam. It's always the first Saturday, Brooke, always the first Saturday. Okay, so what do you need to do? Well, come to the test site. Okay, October. January, let me think about that. January, February, March. No, it's not January, let me see. August, September, October, November. I'm pretty sure it's November, unless they change the date. Because we try to do it towards the end so that you have most of the coursework out of the way. I'm pretty sure it's November, but if I'm wrong, I will come back and make a correction. Okay. So you guys already know that you've been studying quite a bit. You want to arrive early so we can start at 9, and if you want to look at your notes a little bit, you can look at your notes. But don't stay up all night trying to cram. If you haven't been studying now, cramming isn't going to help you. Make sure that you have pencils so that you can write on the scratch paper I want to give you. Don't stress out. That's easier said than done. Hopefully you've had a study plan that you've been studying, your notes. You've been having study sessions. So I'm assuming that you guys have already done this. I'm assuming also that you have reviewed all of the content from your graduate program, and your undergraduate content might not be bad to look at too if it's in speech pathology. But we're talking about your lecture notes, your PowerPoints, chapters that you read in your textbook, anything relevant across the Big 9 area. One thing I will tell you is that for the cases you will have to cite some references. It could be from your class textbooks, it could be from professors, it could be from journal articles, and so forth. So anything that you write, you need to support. Okay? Let's see. Right now, these you've already done. Has everybody been studying every day? If you haven't been studying, I know that you've had good practice management. So that being said, you will have your assessment. It is going to be July the 1st, Avon Williams campus, and arrive by 8:30. 9 to 12 multiple choice, 1 to 4 case studies. And then after that, about 4:30 or 5, we'll do a little reception. I know that Dr. Madlock is going to meet with you. Okay, good. You're here with Amber. Wonderful. So you guys get a good night's rest. You know, I don't want you to, stress out so much. But you do have to take comps, and the reason you take comps is because you're not doing a thesis. All right, guys. Let's look at the kind of questions. Let's focus on the case study right quick. So, hold on. So what I'm going to do is pull up the kind of questions that we're going to ask you. When I can find them. Okay, I got to go back. I missed it. Yeah, you need as many citations as you can have. We don't care how many you put there. Just support whatever you write. Okay, I'm looking. So hold on, guys. Getting ready to pull up. Thank you so much. Okay, give me 1 minute and then I'll answer that question, okay? Sand Springs. Okay. So I see the scoring rubric, so I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. But before we do that, I'm going to pull up the scoring rubric, and then I'm going to pull up another PowerPoint. Okay, so the scoring rubric is coming up. Now I still need to load another PowerPoint. Hi! Oh my goodness, she is so beautiful. I had a little visitor, about 1-year-old, to come in. All right. Oh, this is getting on my nerves. Case study, PowerPoint. Maybe it's in there. No. I just pulled it up and then I lost it, guys. So it's so frustrating because it is in here. Give me 1 minute. Y'all are doing good. I'm just freaking out because I should be. Oh, here it is. Finally found it. Okay. All right. It was in a folder. Okay, so what you're going to do is you're going to have a case. And, oh, that's so funny. How much would a passing grade cost? Ooh, I don't know. I don't think I could be bought. A trip to Europe, maybe, in $1 million? Okay. All right. What's going to happen is, let's go over, I know, but gosh, I'm taping mine. That's not good. You might have to ask me that another time. Okay, guys, what you're going to do is you're going to get a case. You'll have a case. It'll be online. And in fact, you'll have two cases, a child case and an adult case. And these are the questions that you're going to be asked to answer. Okay. So the questions to address, number one, this isn't really number one, but it says, please address the following questions for each of your case studies unless otherwise instructed within the study. In other words, these following questions are the typical questions that you're going to address for both cases, unless you have a case that already has questions in it. Be sure to justify your answers with specific professional practice references and evidence-based practice citation. So, like if you're talking about an assessment or if you're talking about a procedure, why would you use that procedure? What evidence do you have to support that, okay? It could have been, you could use professors, you could use your textbook, you can use the authors of a test or an approach or whatever. You can use an article you read to support, but you've got to support. Don't just write to write. So, important, specific professional practice references and evidence-based practice citation. Okay, so here's question one. Based on the information given in the case, what is your diagnostic plan? Your answer should include, but is not limited to, appropriate tests, standardized and non-standard. Please justify your answer. So if, for example, you're going to tell me about, I don't know, what, let's say you say you're going to use a particular assessment. Well, why are you deciding to use that assessment, and what exactly does it assess? Okay, so let's say you say I'm going to use the Eisenstein aphasia test. Well, that assesses what areas, okay? So are you looking at what? Naming, repetition, fluency, comprehension, reading, writing, what? So make sure you specify the areas and why you chose that assessment. And it's got to be based on what you have read in the case. Based on the case that you've read, maybe your assumption is, well, this person is somebody who has dysarthria, or this person is somebody who has a TBI or something. Okay? So, what is your diagnostic plan? And we want a complete diagnostic plan. So don't just tell me that you're going to do one assessment, because, I mean, you got a person that you've never seen before. So what do you know about their hearing or their structural integrity or things like that? So that's question one. Okay, what other things might you assess and why? So look at the whole picture. Look at the whole person. Okay? That means family, so forth and so on. So that's question one. Any questions about question one?
Dr. Smith?
Yes.
Okay. Hi, this is Ashley Ramey. I'm on teleconference.
Hey, Ashley. How are you?
Good. I have a question about the case study as far as, will it say specifically, like, what, can't think of the word, like, where we're treating, like if this is a school-based treatment, because I know for Dr. Gibson, for our multicultural class, depending on the setting that we were treating the child, kind of differentiated our answers. And so, like, is that going to be provided, or do we just need to state, like, treatment in a school setting, yada, yada, yada?
I don't know that that's going to be specifically provided, but what will be provided is enough information for you to know what to do. And I don't know that, I mean, that's a good question that you asked, but I don't know that that's specifically provided. I think you might, I don't know. It depends. It's going to be a general case. So you might infer that the child is school-aged. And if the child is school-aged, then you could assume, or you could say based on whatever. But the child, it doesn't have to, I don't think it's going to say the child attends so-and-so at school or somebody was, in the hospital. I think it's going to be more general to maybe the age of the child, and it could be that you're in private practice. If that's the case, you don't have to be in the schools. So I don't think it's going to do that. But if it does, then you know what to do. You'll know what to do basically when you see the cases. I'm sorry I can't give you more information, but I haven't seen the cases. But I don't think that I don't think that we'll say this child is receiving services in a school or something like that, or attends so-and-so. I think we're basically going to describe the problem, and you'll know something about the age of the child. And then you have to figure out, based on the information you have, what is a diagnosis and what diagnostic plan are you going to put in place to determine whether or not you're correct or incorrect based on what you're reading. Anybody else have any additional questions? Okay, question 2. Based on your analysis and information given, what treatment options would you recommend? Your answer should include, but is not limited to, facilitation, prevention, and counseling issues. Please justify your answer. So you said that you gave a diagnostic battery, and you did X, Y, and Z, and based on the results of that battery or what you suspect by what you read in the case, what kind of treatment would you do? What might be possible goals based on what you read in the case? So you also got to consider, so I would also have some goals that I list, based on what I'm reading. What are your goals for the client? And then based on that, what approach would you use to treat this client? And what's your evidence? And so, and not just treating the client, but, prevention might be something, and counseling might be recommended. So remember, you're thinking about the whole person. So this says your answer should include, but is not limited to, facilitation, prevention, and counseling. Yes, and that's kind of like really the truth, Amber, because I'm going to show you the rubric. So we're going to be grading on those things we asked you to respond to. So that's why I'm going over these questions, because I actually want you to respond to the question. Don't miss any part of the question, because something on the rubric will determine how we score whatever it is that you say. Okay? Any questions about question 2? Anybody got any questions about question 2? Okay, let's look at question 3. What additional information would you need to obtain in order to provide appropriate management of this client? How would you obtain this information? Please justify your answer. Okay? Are there additional services that you would need? What do you need to have a conversation with other professionals? The family members? What? What do you need to manage effectively this client? What would you need? Based on what you're reading in the case. And justify why you think you would need that. Okay? Any questions about question 3? It says again, what additional information would you need to obtain in order to provide appropriate management of this client? How would you obtain this information? Please justify your answer. Okay? Any questions? Question 4. What appropriate referrals would you make for this client? Please justify your answer. So we're asking you, based on what you've read, What do you think might be a possible diagnosis? How would you diagnose this client? What is your diagnostic plan? Both standardized and non-standardized tests should be considered in evidence-based practice, and we want to know what it is you're assessing. Don't just give me a test name, because I don't know that you know what that test actually assesses. Okay? Then we're asking you to consider how, based on what you think is the problem and the types of diagnostic information you feel like you might get, what are some of the goals based on what this client needs are? What are some of the goals that you think might be appropriate, and how would you treat those goals? And in addition to that, you know, we're talking about facilitation of prevention and counseling. Those areas. Counseling might be very important. You might not want to bypass the counseling thing because it depends on the type of problem that you're looking at, and it depends on, you know, what you know or feel might be problematic, not only for the client, but for the parents and for the, in terms of acceptance and things like that. So you got to consider those things. Management is important. Okay, I need to manage this client, but how do I manage the client? What don't I know? What information would I need to help appropriately manage this client, and what's a good way of getting it? And then, oh, this client has a communication disability. That could be traumatic. But given what the client's goals are, based on what you might read in the case or whatever, what type of referrals would you make and why? Any questions about these questions that you're going to be writing on? Please but please read the questions and make sure you answer the questions appropriately. You have 3 hours to write on 2 cases. One is a child case and one is an adult case. Okay? So that gives you an hour and what? What does it give you? 3 hours. Yeah, 1.5 hours each. Thank you. An hour and 30 minutes each to write on, whatever. Yeah, an hour and 30 minutes each to write on each case. But we are looking for basic sentence structure. We're looking for professional writing. So let's go to the rubric, okay? So now, here is the rubric. Okay. Can everybody see this rubric? Okay. Alrighty then. So you'll notice at the top you have exceptional, which is a high pass, thorough, which is a pass, adequate, which is a low pass, and inadequate, which is a fail. And then if you look, you see the overall percentages, and it's based on your 7-point grading scale. So exceptional high pass is you get 100 on the rubric, down to a 93. Thorough pass is 92 to 87%. Adequate is 86 to 80. And fail is 79 to 0. I'm sorry. So we feel that 80% means that you're competent. All right, and so you can see the areas that we have. We're looking at overall content. So I'm just going to do the exceptional. If you are striving to get somewhere between a 93 and 100, then your content needs to be accurate. It needs to be very well organized and communicated well using professional terminology. So don't write like you're writing to somebody like you want to write so that everything we understand, but use professional terminology. Your writing should be like you're writing to a professional. And you can see the next thing, I believe, is professional writing. Something is blocking it. But excellent professional writing style with strong supporting material. That means that whatever you're writing, you're going to reference. Okay, so don't forget the reference because we are looking for how support that. Okay, support it. Assessment selection. Excellent ability to select appropriate assessment tools. So look at everything, read that case and say, what do I need to do? What do I need to do and why? Okay? So do not just assess what you think that weak area is, but also you can assess strengths as well. All right. So, and you can see these points. You get from 15 to 14 points. That's just 1 point different. These are 1.65 difference in excellent writing. So look how narrow the points are. We can give anywhere from 14.99 to 15, 14.0 to 15, and anything between that can be decimals, or you could just get one of these scores. You can look if it's thorough. The content is accurate, specific, organized, and communicated in appropriate professional terms. But we are going to be judging what one person writes and how they write. And we're going to look across answers from other people with different types of cases to see how you're going to be writing in a particular area. Okay? Assessment, analysis, and synthesis. Evidence of excellent ability to analyze and synthesize information from a variety of sources to evaluate your client's need. Planning. Demonstrates excellent ability to plan appropriate goals and related objectives. So I said, based on the cases, you want to look at goals and objectives. And you can figure those out. Okay. Let's see. Service delivery and consultation referral. Demonstrates excellent skills in managing service delivery and needed consultation or referral. So we're looking at how you actually manage this client from the standpoint of referring or consulting with people that you might need to consult with based on what you see the problem to be. Evidence-based practice integration integrates case with extensive evidence-based professional literature, course readings, lectures, or discussions. And then professional standards, excellent ability to apply case to professional standards or to self as a clinical practitioner. Okay? So you got standards of ethics, you've got scope of practices, you've got things like that. Those are professional standards. Okay. Now, if you fail, if you're getting scores like down somewhere 11.9 or below, all of that's failure. Okay. So you got to be careful to make sure that you don't try to just skirt your way around the question. Actually look at the question. You guys have had all of the necessary training that you need to be able to respond to these cases. Okay? And you can also consult in areas that you feel, well, might be out of my scope or maybe I need some additional help. So this is you. You have graduated. You're going to be working for somebody and you're going to have to make clinical decisions. So think of these cases as your ability to show your knowledge. And what I have found is that the students actually do excellent on the case studies. It's a pleasure to read them sometimes. Okay. Any questions about the scoring rubric? Any questions? Okay. All right, so I want to just show you something in professional liability, and then we'll end class so you can go study. And you'll have tonight, you'll have Friday. So just enjoy, relax, take your time. You guys are going to do well. All right, let me pull up this we were talking about professional liability, and in our next class, most of you have done praxis, but I'm going to talk about things that are very important for you to know as it relates to what's going on in your profession nationally and at the state level. And for those who need additional information about praxis, we're going to talk about praxis just like we talked about comps as well. But let's see. Give me 1 minute just to pull this up. And I know we don't have long in class, but I want to point out what you can do for professional liability to minimize your risk. Okay? Because we talked about the fact that there's different types of liability. And that liability being civil or criminal. And we talked about, I want to show you some of the most common types of violations we've seen from speech-language pathologists or audiologists. It's just problems that have not been intentional, okay? And that being said, it's their inability to diagnose appropriately or just negligence. Negligence has been a big issue in some of the problems that we have seen. And that's the most common unintentional tort that we see against persons in our profession. We talked about the types of civil liability that you can have. Civil liability occurs when you violate some contract. So you state that you're going to provide a service and then you happen to, without thinking, guarantee your results, then that's a problem with the contract. So you can be sued because if your results are not what you guarantee they're going to be, somebody has the right to sue you. Or product liability. We don't think about this, but when you dispense any products, you must make sure that those products work because you can be sued. Again, this is civil liability. Third-party liability, an employer might sue you because you actually work for the employee, and as a result of working for the employer, you actually got, oh, hold on for a minute. Hold on for a minute, guys. Okay, so you work for me. I own a private practice. You do something that causes a litigation to occur. Maybe you guarantee services, which you shouldn't, or you didn't diagnose appropriately, you misdiagnosed, or you used the wrong treatment, or somebody got hurt because of your negligence. I'm going to get sued because I own the company, but I can turn around and sue you. So this is what we call third-party liability. Okay, I'm named in the litigation, but then I seek to litigate you because you have me in a lawsuit. And then we have employer liability, and we talked about that, and that's when you are employed and you get sued. Okay, we talked about the types of criminal liability, fraud, battery. Even a kid, an autistic child, hits you. And so you're going to teach him a lesson, so you hit him back. The parent can, once you touch that child, you can be sued. This is something that would be more of a civil thing, but we were at the airport on Sunday, and there was a lady who was cognitively impaired, and she had a caregiver. The caregiver went inside. My mother pulled out some cookies and started eating them. And the lady turned around and she wanted a cookie. She said, "Give me a cookie." And I told my mom, I said, "Do not give her a cookie." I said, "Because you don't know what type of allergies she has. We don't know anything about her." My mama ignored me and gave her the cookie. And the caregiver came out and said, "Why did you take that cookie?" And the lady said, I said, "I'm so sorry. I tried to get my mom not to do that." But my mom ignored me. She said, "Well, she has swallowing problems." And I said, "I am so sorry. I said, "Mom, see, I tried to tell you." But, of course, now, what if something had happened and that person choked or whatever? So that's a liability. Criminal liability, grand larceny. If you put down that if you bill for services that you don't provide, that's stealing. So product liability, all these things, you purposely sell somebody something you know that is defective. So the professional standard of care is something that you have to follow. And so that's what we want to know. How well do you adhere to, in your cases that you're writing, to professional standards of care? And that's governed by your code of ethics, your scope of practice, preferred practice patterns, best practice statements, state licensure laws, policy guidelines, statement positions, position statements, reports, all those things. Okay. And these are just some of the types of problems that we saw from ASHA. These are actual problems people got cited for. You falsely advertise a service that you don't provide, or your license. Guys, when you decide that when you go out to do your CFY, you must let people know that you are a CFY. You do not have your certificate of clinical competence. You cannot advertise anything other than that, otherwise that is fraud. Refusal to provide a service, we already know you can't do that. You can be sued. Possession of stolen property or misrepresenting your credentials, that's what we call, you should show yourself as a CFY, not a CCC. Promise of cures. So some of these things that you're looking at, I'm not going to go over them per se. You can read them. Getting involved with your client, sexual assault, any of those things, your ethical violations. And these are some of the claims that the ASHA liability insurance broker saw. Improper treatment procedure, employment conflict. That actually happened, and that's why I got my job. I was able to get a job when I came to Tennessee. The person whose job I stepped into went on maternity leave, but then she decided to see the same patients that she couldn't work, but she decided to see the students, those children, at her home. So she was paying for services, but she was employed, and I stepped in to do her job at school. So that's an employment conflict. All right. Client death. We actually had a situation where with swallowing, the person, this was a long time ago, but somebody did die because of improper diet. The person choked to death, and the SLP was working with that person. Mistaken identity. So all of these. So what we want you to do is to protect your financial assets by managing your risk, okay? We want you also to protect the consumers of your services. All right. And we want you to protect the institution that you're working for. So what I want to tell you is that you must get a license. But your license is there to not only protect you, but more so to protect the consumer. Okay? So these are steps that you have to take for managing your risk. First, you have to identify pure risks. So what's a risk? If you're in a building and the building is torn down or the floors are broken or whatever, that is a risk. If a client comes in and steps through the floor, or if you have a leaky water fountain there and there's water pooling around a particular area on the floor, that's a risk. So you got to identify the risk. You're going to analyze risks in terms of probable loss, frequency, and severity. What, in terms of the risk, what could you lose? Okay, so you say, well, you know what, this mom doesn't know that I'm working on my clinical fellowship, that I'm a CF and not a CCC, so I'm not going to tell her. And hopefully she won't find out, and you know what? Maybe she doesn't want you working with her child in a CF because you're misrepresenting your credentials. So what might you lose? Okay? Develop an alternative risk control and risk financing techniques, and that means that you need to be insured. If you're in private practice, you better have some insurance because if you get sued, you could lose your house. Improve chosen techniques, whatever it is you choose to do, and then you want to monitor the effectiveness of your risk management program. So here are approaches to dealing with risk. Risk avoidance. Simply don't take the risk. If you have something, don't misrepresent your credentials. Do not guarantee treatment. Make sure you diagnose appropriately. Get informed consent. Don't take the risk. Risk retention. Self-insurance. Make sure that you can financially pay for any claim against you. So you have to, if you're going to retain the risk, then you've got to make sure that you can pay for any claim that's brought against you. Risk transfer. Obtain professional liability insurance coverage. That's why none of you can go into these sites without being covered, because you're actually working under somebody else's license. So that's why these sites make you go through for client protection and for your protection and for the protection of the company. So that's why at TSU, there are forms that we can't sign. That's why the contractual issue is such a big thing with these sites. One site looks at what we have written and they say, well, we're not going to abide by that. We can't do it. And we say, well, we can't place our student with you unless you sign this because Tennessee law requires it. So that's something you got to think about. Risk reduction. Develop a risk prevention program and use preventative techniques. This won't be long, guys. So these are the categories of how you can reduce your risk. Okay? Awareness and education of the practitioner. So how do you do that? You identify your potential risk. You reduce the risk by providing an accepted standard of care. So know what you're doing. Practice within the scope of your profession. Do not practice outside of your scope. Stay current in your profession. That means you've got to get CEUs. When you graduate, to get the Tennessee license, you are going to keep it. You are going to have to get 10 CEUs in the area of practice each year for a 3-year period. You got to have 30 over a 3-year period, and you've got to get 10 per year. For ASHA, you have to have 30 CEUs, but you don't have to get 10 per year. You can get 30 in 1 year over a 3-year period. 30 in a year, and then you would have gotten them and won't have to get another 30 for 3 years, or you can divide them out and so forth. Okay? Refer when you do not possess knowledge. Refer when you do not possess knowledge. Do not put yourself in a situation where you don't know what you're doing. Consult and refer. This is awareness. This is education. The second thing you can do is communicate effectively. Develop a positive relationship with your clients. Listen to your clients. Be a good listener. Explain test results, your treatment goals, but do it in layman's terms so that they understand what you are doing. Primary example, I had somebody to come in to me yesterday and said, what's going on? I don't understand. My son thinks X, Y, and Z. And so I said, let me talk to my clinical supervisor. And when I did, the supervisor said, we explained that. And I said, yeah, but they don't understand. So what did we do? We brought them back in. We explained it again. Everybody is happy. Don't make misleading statements. It's better to say nothing than to mislead somebody. Address both benefits and limitations of your products or your treatment. Provide written warranties and disclaimers of guarantees. Do not guarantee. And most of all, secure signatures to acknowledge information transfer. So you say, okay, I went over this with you. Sign. That's what we do at the beginning of each semester with you guys. We make you sign these contracts. And then we make you sign that you understand or that we went over this. You put your signature on it. Okay? Document, document, document. Make accurate entries. Document all personal and telephone contact with clients and families. Sign your clients in. Document, document. Keep copies of all of your correspondence. If somebody doesn't show up, document that. My daddy actually had to go to court because somebody in Voc Rehab said that he did not provide the services. My daddy showed, he had a notebook, he had documentation of date and time that he met with his clients. Whether they showed up, it was thrown out. Document non-compliant behavior. Document limitations or treatment processes. Document warnings of dangers of products. So you say, okay, there's a problem with this. I'm not going to disseminate it. The person says, I want it. You say, nope. All right, if you're going to take whatever, you got to sign in writing that we talked about this. I did not recommend it, blah, 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 blah. The last thing is confidentiality. Release to a specific entity only information that was requested in writing. And make sure you have obtained signed and witnessed release. Know who is authorized to review or receive records, because every parent doesn't want everybody getting information about their kids or about themselves, clients. Be available to explain or interpret information, and make sure if you're going to fax something that you do it cautiously, and make sure you do not leave files and folders out where the public can see them. Make sure when you email something, you have to do it cautiously to prevent disclosure to unauthorized individuals. And if you guys do that, then you have done everything that you should do to kind of minimize your risk. Don't ever practice without insurance. Never, never, never. Does anybody have any questions about comps or professional liability or risk management, what you should do, or even ethics, because those are the things we've talked about. Anybody have any questions? No, I am so sorry, you cannot. I wish we could. Okay, any other questions? All right, if not, then good luck. Oh, when do we find out if we pass? You will find out a couple of weeks later, because what happens, and really what happens is after you go through comps, then we read. So we take the following week to read, and then the week after that. Thank you, Alicia. Any other questions? Okay, guys, good luck. I'm looking forward to seeing you Saturday, and I know you'll do well. So with that, I'm going to say good night, and I'll see you Saturday morning. Oh, and I'll have a copy of your hours, and some of your hours need correction, so we'll have a copy of that on Saturday as well. All right, see you then, guys. Thank you. Oh, can I talk to you for a minute? Okay.